Chapter 7. Harmonizing a melody, some more considerations. When you're trying to choose what specific harmonies for a simple chorale-style melody you should use, there are usually a lot of choices for each melody note, as you can see in this two-phrase example right here. This is in the key of B flat, and underneath each of these melody notes, you can see that I've placed the chords that could possibly be used to harmonize. And the way that I did that was by making a little chart of the chords in the key of B flat, the 1, the 4, and the 5 chords, and then seeing which of those melody notes would fit into any one of those given chords. So how do you choose when you have more than one choice for each melody note? Well, here's a few suggestions. First, take a look at the cadences first and make sure that the cadences make sense. At least at the first cadence, that's in measure 4, there are two choices. Either a plagal cadence, 4-1, or a half cadence, 4-5. Now, because plagal cadences they're rather rare, especially without the support of a strong authentic cadence first, we're going to go ahead and choose the half cadence, 4 and 5, so I've circled those. For the second cadence, and again we can tell it's a cadence because it comes to a half note, which is a longer valued note, in measure 8, the choices are either an authentic cadence, 5-1, or a kind of unusual non-final cadence, 5-4. It really is not a standard cadence, so we're not going to pick that. We're going to go with the authentic cadence, 5-1. So here we go. I've gone and made some choices for the rest of the chords, and I'm going to play through this. But let me tell you that I'm not really happy with a lot of these choices. We're going to go back to those numbered examples and see what makes them weak. Okay, so there's several issues that were mishandled in this example. Number 1, harmonic rhythm. When the music moves into a new measure, the harmony really should change. This helps the listener to perceive the metric organization of the measures of the rhythm. 2, forbidden parallels. There are parallel fifths between the bass and the tenor, as well as parallel octaves between the bass and the soprano. Now, whenever you choose a harmony that results in the exact same note in the bass as is in the soprano, then parallels will result. So if you've got the root tones in the bass and in the soprano at the same time between a couple of chords, you're going to have some problems with parallels. 3, harmonic rhythm. By repeating the 4 chord on beats 2 and 3, greater emphasis has really been placed on beat 2, and that's kind of what we would call a syncopated harmonic rhythm. In this style that we're doing, this kind of harmonic syncopation should be avoided. You're trying to make, if possible, a chord change on beat 3. 4, harmonic rhythm. Here's the same problem as we saw at number 1. 5, retrogression. Now, retrogression is permissible, but it shouldn't really be too prevalent, so we should learn to be very sensitive to it. And in this case, a 5 chord should really progress to tonic and should not regress to a dominant preparation function. Remember that chart that we looked at where the chords are functioning and where they're going. 6, I would call this unclear function. It's rather meandering and aimless progression as the chords move back and forth between 4 and 5. 7 and 8, we've got more forbidden parallels. There are parallel fifths between the bass and the soprano, as well as parallel octaves between the bass and the alto. So be careful not to create parallel fifths with a melody when choosing the harmonies. 9, forbidden parallels again. The perfect fifth interval between the bass and the soprano on the 5 chord moves to another perfect fifth interval between the bass and the soprano on the 1 chord. Now, even though the voices are moving in contrary motion, the perfect fifths are still consecutive. And this is still considered to be an error. We'll call this consecutive fifths by contrary motion. 10. Harmonic rhythm. It really is best to change the harmony going into beat 3. And this repetition of the same chord on beats 2, 3, and 4 places extra emphasis on beat 2, resulting in what I call a syncopation of the harmonic rhythm again. 11. Overlapped voices. The tenor voice on the 5 chord, the pitch A, moved to a lower pitch than the bass voice on the previous beat, B flat. And this kind of overlapping confuses the integrity of the order of the voices. So, overlapping voices will be covered a little more thoroughly in Chapter 9. So here's the main concepts: forbidden parallels, parallel fifths, parallel octaves, even if they're approached by contrary motion, should be avoided between pairs of voices. Harmonic rhythm. This is where there's a metric stress created by the placement of the pattern of the harmonies within the measure, and you want to take special care that the beginning of the measure is perceived as a chord change, and also try not to syncopate the harmonic rhythm to put extra stress on beat 2 or 4. And retrogression. That's harmonic motion that is contrary to the normal tendency of chord function. So a 5 to a 4 is considered retrogression because normally 4 moves to 5 and 5 moves to 1. So here's the same melody, harmonized again, this time with a lot of those issues have been fixed. So note that the harmonic rhythm is much improved in this harmonization. The harmony always changes at the beginning of the measure, and there is no syncopated harmonic rhythm, causing undue emphasis on beat 2. In fact, there are several instances where the same harmony is used for beats 1 and 2, and also for beats 3 and 4, which is perfectly acceptable. So you can go ahead and check your understanding 17.1, in which case you're going to have to come up with a set of harmonies, 1, 4, and 5, and try to figure out what would be a good choice of where to put those Roman numerals. Next, let's talk about an alternative voice leading method for root tone motion in fifths. You're going to find that there are some times when the root tone motion in fifths where you're going to want to retain a common tone, but that's either going to be very difficult to do or impossible because of the melody. The melody pitch was chosen, or maybe it was given to you, and it doesn't allow for that common pitch. Maybe the melody started on the common pitch and then moved to something else. So we have an alternative for this voice leading, and here it is. First, don't retain the common tone, but move the upper 3 voices in the same direction. Here's another choice. Go ahead and retain the tone, the common tone, but move the 3rd of the first chord into the 3rd of the second chord in the same voice. This will be a little jumpier. It'll be those voices will move around a little bit more than our main method, but it can work and it's smooth enough. Or number 3, don't retain a common tone and move the upper 3 voices in the same direction. So again, the melodic motion in the soprano demanded here some alternative voice leading. You can go ahead and check your understanding 7.2, and you get to try root tone motion in fifths with some kind of an alternative method for voice leading.